this statement that positive motion creates positive emotion. And I love that. It is sort of reverse word play there. But can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
It's probably my favorite topic that I speak about, because I think it's one of the most underestimated, underutilized aspects of human behavior. One of the analogy I use is that, let's say today is January 1st. I mean, you've decided that today is the day you're going to change behavior, whether it be, get healthier or save more money or improve the way, make your relationships better, keep your desk clean, whatever your goal is, right? Today is the day that you're going to do it. And you do it for 3 days in a row. And at the third day, you start thinking, you know what? This isn't that hard. This is me. I kind of enjoy this. But then on that third day, after you start to get this positive love for this situation, life jumps in the way. You get sick, somebody in your family gets sick, too many deadlines to send, something interrupts your momentum. Boom. All right, well, then you look up, and it's been 3 days since you were able to do your new resolution. At 3 days, let's use exercise. It's a great example. If you exercise 3 days in a row, you start thinking, this isn't that bad. But then if you don't exercise for 3 days, you start thinking, man, I don't want to do that at all. I mean, how can you go from wanting to do something to absolutely not wanting to do something in a very short 3-day period of time? Your core values haven't changed. Your goals haven't changed. The way your genetics, the way you were raised, your life history, all that stuff hasn't changed. But what has changed is this short-term pattern in which you're living and the experience that you get from that pattern. So my belief is that positive motion creates positive emotion. That means the more you press in one direction, that momentum, that behavioral momentum starts building up behind you. And you can do that in a pretty short period of time. So I believe that when we think about personal change, or when they think about how they design their facilities, if you can take a short-term process-based approach that gives them a positive experience on the front end, then that experience begets even more positive experiences. I hope that's not too abstract for you.
No, I think I know what you're getting at. I think one of the things that strikes me as we're having this conversation is we could even narrow down some of these tips that you're giving to people in terms of just their what they do at this conference in general and how they approach going through the conference and the conference experience. And do you have any insights in what people could do to maybe just really focus in on what would be most meaningful to them to get out of the conference?
Absolutely. That is something I'm doing a lot lately. People are I believe they're becoming more aware. Maybe it's the healthcare debates. Maybe it's the obesity rates. Maybe that stuff is finally sinking in a little bit. But people are looking at, in conferences, what can we do to help our attendees get more from the experience, enjoy the experience? So I'll break it up into two things. How can you get more from your time at this conference? Well, number one is I come from the world of human performance research. And knowing that this group has a pretty unique combination of characteristics. They are very data-driven individuals. Like myself, I'm a researcher by background. I love data, right? I'm like, that is the most beautiful graph I've ever seen because it just illustrates perfectly, right? So I love that aspect of data and analytical nature of my personality, but I also live in the world where I have to be highly creative. If I can't provide solutions to my clients in a data-driven way, right, backed up with data, but these new ideas or patterns or suggestions or processes, if they aren't creatively fit to the specific challenges that my clients face, then I'm not going to get very far professionally. So you have to be able to combine both this analytical and creative aspect. Okay, so here's a super simple suggestion for your attendees. I know these conferences are a lot about fun, but if you don't get enough quality sleep, your ability to absorb this information from the conference and use it and recall it later in a creative pattern. If you're not able to the best way to help you connect all those dots and use it in your professional life day in and day out is to get enough sleep, enough quality, deep, restorative, regenerative sleep. So I talk to groups a lot about sleep because if you wake up and you're super tired, that really inhibits your body, your mind, your physiology, and your psychology's ability to connect the dots, so to speak. So here's my suggestion. Step number one, when they get into their room, I want them in the evenings, I want them to drop the temperature to 67 degrees. We know physiologically that is the optimal temperature for the deepest, to help them reach the deepest restorative phases of sleep. All right, the second thing I want them to do is to darken the environment as dark as they can possibly make it. So if they have to put a towel by the front door, so that 6-inch crack that goes from the front door to the floor, if they need to block that, do that. Yeah. Number 3 is I want them to make sure they drink. Also, sure, they all know they need to drink tons of water, but I want them to shut off their fluid intake at least 2, but better 3 hours before they go to sleep. So that might be tough for some that are doing the serious networking in the bar area, but it's critical to them falling to sleep quickly, staying asleep, reaching the deepest, most restorative phases of sleep. So that way when their alarm goes off in the morning, they're much more able to absorb the information, be persuasive, be creative, and enjoy the process. That's number 1. Number 2, you ready for number 2?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right, number 2 is there's some really, really cool data on socialization. And I'm not sure yet. I'm still putting together the program for this conference, still doing some interviews to make sure I, fit this perfectly to their challenges. But one of the things I'm really excited about is this data on socialization. We know, and it's one of those graphs that's so beautiful that when you look at it, you just go, oh, I need to frame that thing. But you look at it, and what you see is that there is a very clear linear correlation between how much time you average every day in social interaction with others. So the more time you are alone, the less time that you have in social contact with others, we see an exponential increase in what they classify as intense stress and worry, and an exponential decrease in the amount of time that you feel enjoyment and happiness in life. Okay, so a person that gets basically no socialization has a 1-to-1 ratio. They're happy as much as they feel intense stress and worry, and that is a terrible way to live. Okay, so but with each hour that they average socially connecting with others, that it makes a huge difference to where it goes all the way down. If they do 6 hours of that per day, they have a 12-to-1 ratio. They're 12 times as happy as they feel intense stress and worry. Now, I'm not suggesting that they do 6 hours a day of socialization. That's most of the time that's not realistic for most people. But there is a 3 to 4 hour range so that they can hit, that I've yet to find a profession that can't hit that. Okay, so for this conference, what I would suggest that they do is that to really capitalize on this networking socialization piece and to make the conversations not only about work, but to forge new friendships in this conference. Now, every conference, they encourage people to do that because they want to build their professional network. But I want to suggest to the attendees to think about it from, yes, build your professional network, but also try to build your friend network, your people that you can call who are like you, who have the same job stresses that you have, so you can build your professional/personal support system and then arrange with those people, with your new support network, try to arrange times where you talk to each other on a regular basis. It's amazing, and I'm excited to show that data. They'll see that and go, wow, that's really interesting.
Those are really good suggestions. Having gone to so many conferences myself, I break those rules a lot.
You can't, breaking the rules is fun. I like to break the rules myself. But if we look at it from a day-to-day process in that conference, they're going to be, when they come to my closing session, they're going to have 4 days of data and information and experience and networking all crammed into their brain. So when I hit those kind of conferences, which I do a lot, both for my own use to go and attend, but also to speak at, this whole thing about maintaining your physiology so that your psychology can be at its best, this whole thing of looking at the world from a social standpoint and looking for opportunities to increase your real social connection with people in your field, it just makes a huge difference to the outcome that you'll get from the conference.
Well, that's great advice, Andy. I really thank you for your insight. And for our listeners, if you want to hear more, be sure to come attend the upcoming Healthcare Design Conference. Andy will be the wrap-up speaker, as he mentioned, and he's going to help us to move our conference experience back into the real world of work. And I think some of those things that we were just talking about are great examples of how to do that. So, again, for listeners, if you haven't registered for the conference, it's still not too late. So you can simply go to the Conferences and Events tab found on the Center for Health Design's website and click on the conference registration link. So I know I'll see you in Nashville, Andy, but I hope to see some of our listeners there too as well.
I hope so too. I hope to see a bunch of them, and thank you, Sarah. It was great talking with you.
Thank you, Andy.